Now, some of you might be wondering why this new video review took so bloody long. Truth, I never planned to cover this game. It just plopped into my lap after a piss-up holiday on a sun-soaked Spanish beach, smack in the middle of a PlayStation Store sale bonanza. You see, 2019's Death Stranding was that bird at the bar. Gorgeous and mysterious, but I bottled chatting her up like a proper wanker. Then, a few weeks back, it dropped to a steal of a price. Fuck it, I thought, let's roll. Braced for the walking symbolics and dreading an 80-hour dystopian Postman Pat wankfest. You don't know what Postman Pat is? Well, it's an 80s stop-motion crap about Pat Clifton, a dopey rural postie and his mongrel black and white cat Jess, flogging letters round Greendale's shithole valleys.
Boom, 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 boom. What a lovely day, said Pat to Jess.
To summarise the first game, in Death Stranding, acclaimed director Hideo Kojima crafts a haunting post-apocalyptic odyssey where America lies in ruins after the cataclysmic Death Stranding event unleashed some ghostly BTs, which are ethereal entities that drag the living to the afterlife and time-accelerating timefall rain that ages everything it touches, turning your pubes grey mid-walk. You play as Sam Porter Bridges, a reclusive courier with repatriate abilities tasked by President Bridget Strand to rebuild the United Chiral Network, reconnecting isolated preppers and cities by manually hauling fragile cargo across treacherous, rain-slick terrains riddled with craters, rivers, and hostile raiders. As Sam delivers supplies and constructs zip lines and roads and uncovers holographic memories, he grapples with personal demons including his wife's death and the extinction-threatening void-outs caused by BT encounters. Basically, one wrong step and boom, humanity's done. But teaming up with allies like the maternal Fragile and the survivalist Hartman, Sam delves into cosmic lore involving Carelium, the beach, and figures like the enigmatic Higgs and the scientist Deadman. Blending walking sim stealth and RPG elements, this game philosophizes on a connection in a divided world, culminating in revelations about humanity's fragile extinction brink. With Matt Mikkelsen's Spectral Cliff and Guillermo del Toro's cameos, it's a meditative epic on grief, legacy, and rebuilding society, one delivery at a time. Upon finishing the first game, I was absolutely taken aback at how good it actually was. Utterly engrossed in the story, albeit in true Kojima style, it does in places require some trimming of the fat, but it was a wonderful experience from start to finish and one I regret not playing earlier. So that takes me to the middle of October. I was sat with a copy of Death Stranding 2 ready to go back to back on the first game. Warning though, mild spoilers are ahead, which can't be avoided, but I'm doing this on the basis you've played the first game through and know the main points. I will though try to avoid any spoilers to the story itself on Death Stranding 2, as not to spoil any of the twists or ending of the game. Death Stranding 2 picks up the pace of the first game right from the off. Almost like 6 years haven't gone. The opening scenes where you pick up with Postman Sam and now toddlerish Lou traversing the sunny, mountainous vista of Mexico, backed by the amazingly talented Wood Kids inspirational beats of Minus 61, throws you in the action right away. And from there the game never lets go, with the pace relentlessly hitting beat after beat, twist after twist, pulling on every emotion you can think of. Anger, joy, sadness, so on and so on. It's like Kojima raided your therapy notes, finger-banged your feels, and set them to a banger soundtrack. Visually, the game is beautiful. The Decima Engine here really shows what it can do. No wonder Sony don't want to license it out to other studios, because right now, not much comes close. Unless you're into games that look like they were rendered on a potato. Set partially in Mexico and mainly Australia, the stunning landscapes vary from dry arid plains, sandy deserts, snowy mountains and woody forests. The new day-night cycle brings these landscapes to life with different lighting effects, making several of the epic shots of the world almost photorealistic at times. Motion capture is again top quality, with each actor able to portray nuance in their performance rarely seen in games. With character models so realistic you can see minor skin blemishes and scars on faces of those in the game. Varying weather effects like high winds, sandstorms and snowstorms not only look visually amazing, but they also add greater difficulty to your travels on foot. The game plays every bit as much like the first. Travel from A to B, and sometimes C, delivering cargo, retrieving items, or completing set missions. As I played the games back to back, the minor changes in the controls did throw me a little bit, and I wasn't quite sure why this was done, apart from to make me look like a bit of a prick, when I kept trying to scan the environment using L1, only to realise that is now crouch, and Postman Sam was doing some strange polska dance. Although eventually I did get used to the new layout, it is one thing to note if you do play these back to back, and I'm not sure of the reason for the changes, as it seems to break most game design for control layouts. Encountering Timefall will slowly deteriorate cargo and equipment, but in Death Stranding 2, upgraded Timefall shelters will allow you to regain container condition and offer protection against enemies. A small improvement, but a welcome one, making them a lot more useful. You can also leave your pack in a shelter if you wish to scout or clear a location nearby, but don't want to haul 200 kilograms with you, so it doesn't look like you have the Empire State Building on your back whilst hiding in tall grass. Main orders and side orders can be taken on at the terminals. From there you can plot your route, fabricate equipment and manage your cargo. Major improvements have been made in here over the first. Plotting a route is a lot simpler with a quick button mapping function to add waypoints, and the manoeuvrable 3D map makes viewing potential routes and terrain a lot easier. Cargo can now be managed en masse, and moving it from inventories is simpler and quicker. These improvements are a much needed enhancement of the first game, where plotting a route became a chore, and the map was as useless as a chocolate teapot in the Sahara. Vehicles are still available. Tricycles and off-roaders return, with off-roaders now able to handle as much cargo as their looks allow. Again, an improvement over the first. Driving feels slightly more responsive than the first, but the occasional pebble in the road still causes a major conundrum to the weighty off-roader, at times requiring some Austin Powers style manoeuvring to escape from the dire situation. Adding materials to auto-pavers will allow you to build roads which make travel easier and more efficient. Vehicles can be fabricated or borrowed from the online garage and upgraded with extra battery packs for longevity and weapons if required. You can also stylize them up with colours and decals if you so wish, because nothing says post-apocalyptic survival like bedazzling your apocalypse wagon like a stripper's thong. Progression has changed somewhat, where you'll only improve the skills you use. So if you prefer to take a long drive over a long walk, for example, then you'll not progress the porter grade as much. Prefer stealth to combat, then expect the respective skill tree to grow at the expense of the other. Increasing grades unlocks skills and items, and skills now require purchasing using memory that can be allocated to certain A-pass skills in respective trees. Each order you complete will grade you in the same way as the first did, allocating a score depending on damage taken or other parameters set for that particular order. You can still take a rest between missions at any main bases you add to the chiral network, but most of your rest will be taken on the DHV Magellan, a huge transporter ship which can travel across the map, and where you can undertake any of the main core functions as you would do at a base. It's like a floating Airbnb for doomsday delivery boys. 5 stars. Only a selection of the original cast return in meaningful ways. Postman Sam is obviously the playable protagonist. Fragile returns along with Lou, Die Hardman, Deadman and Hartman. The original cast are as wonderful as before, even as some are in diminished roles. The new additions are excellent in their own ways, and as well acted as you would expect. Rainey, Neil, Tarman, Charlie, the President, and my personal favourite Dolman, who you carry around with you as a companion and can throw in the air to scout out locations. The one thing that does get me though is how fucking literal the naming convention in this game is. A man with a tar hand? Tarman. Man with a dodgy ticker? Heartman. Man who is a doll? Dollman. Man who's made up from dead people's body parts? Dead man. Man who can't be killed easily? Die hard man. Man who likes to watch porn? Wank man. Okay, I made that last one up, but give it time. Kojima's got form for weirder shit than a character whose superpower is edging through cutscenes. To save spoilers, the main antagonist, who I'll call Bad Man because he's bad and he's a man, is as well acted as you would expect when you know the actor behind the character, with a deeply comically twisted and sadistic take reminiscent of Heath Ledger's Joker. Additions to the enemies have been made, but the core concept is the same. Heavy timefall can bring you at risk of BTs, with your deck providing some warning as to their location. Gazers return, along with new form watchers, who are giant BTs able to see you when in line of sight. Being captured will once again pull you into a tar pool, where if you don't manage to escape, will trigger a large BT fight. Death in these situations leads to a void out. Human enemies return, but with a new lethal variant. Mech warriors also provide a new challenge to the world. Weapons are pretty much the same as the first game, with a few new additions that will allow you to navigate fights in different ways, for example the Blood Blade, and customizing your pack will allow you to increase ammo carried, so there's no need to carry an armory on your back anymore.
Now you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punks?
For those who played the first game, they will remember an emotional story which kept any twists and turns under tight wraps until the moment of highest impact. And I'm happy to say that this hasn't changed in the second game at all, in the main. But the good thing this time is that the pacing feels much better with a lot of the superfluous guff removed. I mean, who remembers the Amelie Beach scene at the end of the first game, where you walked around on the beach waiting for random cutscenes to occur with no way of knowing how to trigger them? No more of that here though, thankfully. But that isn't to say Kojima doesn't get to interject some of his drug-fueled quirkiness into the game. The guitar battle, for example. And Charlie's dance routines. But this time it's kept more to a minimum, which allows a better flow to things so you can keep track of the main storyline. Like I say, Kojima's quirks are still there, but now they're like that mate who tells one weird story instead of three. The soundtrack is superb once more, with Woodkid, who also provides a cameo, providing the majority of beats supplemented by low roar and silent poets. You can also now play any music obtained in the game through the music player, which you obtain after meeting the musician. Atmospheric sounds from the weather to BTs increase the overall world vibe to match the visual aesthetics. Guns pop, explosions roar, making battles intense when you're in them. Woodkid's tracks, pure goosebumps. There were some areas though where I thought the game let itself down, albeit ever so slightly. Tiny gripes, like finding a hair in your soup. It's annoying, but the soup's still banging. The Neil Varner sequence is pretty much a copy and paste of Clifford Unger sequences in the first game. You get warped into a historical perspective of Neil, fight some dead soldiers and him over a few phases of the battle, to then get a flashback before being teleported back to the real world. The issue here is that where in the first you didn't know if Clifford was good or bad until the end, the familiarity in the structure this time round gives the main essence of this part of the story away, even if you don't know the particulars. You know where this is going to lead to from the first time it happens. Where in the first game you think Clifford is bad because you're fighting him, obviously, and he tries to take your BB, this time you know that Neil will turn out to be a good guy who is on your side come the end. It's the only time that any element of the story is obvious before you see it through to the conclusion, and that's because the general structure is almost a replica of the Clifford Unger scenes. This is a shame because the actual story of Neil Varner is actually pretty good. It's like Kojima copy-pasted his homework, solid marks, but teacher spots the cheat. I also think that due to the unfound criticism of the first game being a walking simulator, the balance has shifted too far in the opposite direction. The vast majority of travel can be done by vehicle, which takes away the fun element of plotting routes, navigating terrain, and replanning your journey to mitigate any unforeseen challenges. Especially so with the upgrades to the map. Allowing you to travel by vehicle to pretty much all your destinations removes a large part of what makes the game good. Sure, you can choose to go on foot, but why take twice the amount of time when you can do an easy road trip? The only part of the game that returns to the roots of the original is when you have to traverse the mountains in the middle of the map, but this was short-lived, and you could return to vehicles shortly after. The game's been overcorrected so hard it's like trading hiking boots for a monster truck. Fun, but misses the muddy soul, like swapping a handjob for a fleshlight. The other minor downside to the game is the ease you can avoid the BTs. I rarely triggered any encounters with them that I couldn't escape from. For example, one occasion it was because I fell into a crevasse on the mountains, which resulted in a game over. Other than that, they were relatively rare. The new BT strain of giant watchers I only encountered twice in my whole playthrough, one at the beginning and one at the end. Whether I was just lucky or the amount of times you meet them has been toned down, I don't actually know, but this significantly reduced the threat level in the world from the first game where you always feared any BT encounters, and they occurred pretty often. I'm not sure if this was by design or through the more dynamic weather systems in the game which just affected my playthrough. BTs went from jump scare nightmares to occasional awkward X at a party. Less dread, more meh. So my verdict. Hideo Kojima's sequel to his 2019 series debut is a wonderfully crafted, emotional experience that rarely misses a beat. The wonderful characters and beautiful design, intricate storyline, and the rich world all add up to give you an experience which is well worth the money. Much like a night with a $2,000 25-year-old Eastern European escort. Tight, twisty, and leaves you spent but satisfied. Gameplay is smooth and gorgeous, especially in 4K on a PS5 Pro, and any criticism of the game that I have is minor and doesn't detract from the overall package in any way. I have no regrets in declaring this game as fun. To me, both games slot right up there in my top 10, with others like Red Dead Redemption 2, The Last of Us, and Alien Isolation. Unique experiences in gameplay and storytelling which rival anything on the big screen. Yes, there are still the typical Kojima quirks and convolutions, but overall the narrative to the game is well crafted and impactful as the first. If you like open world, story-driven adventures, then I would wholeheartedly recommend the first and the second, because as a package, the two are pretty hard to beat and will be for a very long time. Anyhow, I'm off to make a delivery, so bye for now!
Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat, and his black and white cat. Early in the morning, just as day is dawning, he picks up all the post bags in his van. Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat, and his black and white cat.